Okay, so welcome back to this course. So now let's integrate our cart in this video. So we have successfully handled our pagination, search and filter, and now in this video we will create our cart page. Okay, and then we will add the items to the cart, and also we will remove the items from the cart. Okay, so for that I also have to use the state management. So for the state management I will use context API. Okay, so before actually going toward the cart, let's handle our let's handle our context API and add that in our layout.jsx. Okay, so first of all, create a new folder here with the name context. So I will place all my context API files in this context folder. First of all, in this video you create my cart context. Okay, that will handle my cart. Alright, so now to create a context I have to first of all import here create context from React. Okay, and this is going to be a client component, otherwise we will get here error. Okay, we have to use here a use state use effect, so that's why we have to make it client. Right, and after that I will create my context. So I will type here const cart context is going to be create context. Okay, so I will create my context here. Now I have to create my provider. So export const the cart provider, in which I will define all my functions. Okay, now in here I have my children. Okay, and now here I will define all my functions one by one. All right, that is going to be equal to, for example, I type here cart. Okay, because I have to handle my cart here, so set cart. I will use here use state. Okay, and that is going to be an empty array at start. Okay, because cart will contain all the cart items, so I will define here that. Also I need here the router, so const router is going to be use router from the next/navigation, and then I also have to use here use effect. I will use that later. Let's import that. Now let's return here the cart context. So return here cart context dot provider. Okay, and now in that I have to pass in here all my values. So right now my value is going to be first of all the cart. Okay, and then we will add all the functions and values one by one in our cart context. Simply save this one. Now to integrate in our application, I simply go to my app, create a new file here that is going to be global provider. Okay, so global provider .jsx. Now I will handle all my providers in the global provider. Then I will add this global provider in our layout. Okay, so I will simply type here export. Okay, that is going to be a function. I call it global provider. Okay, global provider. In that I have here my children. Okay, so children, and then I will simply return from here cart context. Okay, so I will import the card provider from context/card context. I have to use this card provider here. Okay, so I will wrap that in the tags. Okay, now in that I will simply pass in here my children like this. Okay, so now I will use this global provider in my layout.js file. So I go here, then after the body I simply type here global provider. Okay, then I will wrap my header and children inside that like this. Simply save it, and that is it. Now we successfully integrate our context API in our application. Okay, if I go back to my Chrome, if I reload this page. Okay, so now if I go to the inspect, and here if I go to the components, make sure that you install this extension, that is React Developer Tools. Okay, and then here you will see here the card context. You can see that here in the context or provider we have in the value our card, which is an empty array. Okay, so our context API is integrated successfully. Now we simply have to create our functions. So the first of all I will define here add to cart. Okay, so when user will click on add to cart button, we have to pass the product data, and then we have to save that data in the local storage, as well as we also put the card items in the state. Okay, so what I do is I close this from here. Now let's define our first function here. So I simply type here const add item to cart. Okay, that is going to be async. Now in that I will get all my data. Okay, so first of all I will get here the product, which is the product ID, then the name, then the price of the product, then the image, then the stock, then the seller, and then the quantity. Okay, so quantity is going to be 1 by default. All right, so these are the params that will be passed in the create add to cart function. Now that I will prepare my item, so item is going to be this. Okay, so we will pass all these in the items. Now we have to save this item in the local storage, and also we have to add that in the cart. So after this I will check that, first of all, if that item already exists in the cart, then we have to update the values, otherwise we simply have to add a new item in the cart. So I check that const is item exist. Okay, so that is going to be um, cart, this cart, because we will save all the cart in this cart. So I will check that if cart dot cart items, we are going to have cart items in the cart. Okay, so if cart dot cart items, I will find here. Okay, I will check that for each item in the cart item, I will check that if that item is going to be, remember that this I dot product is going to be the current item ID. Okay, so this product is the ID of the product. So if that is equal to item dot product, okay, this means that this item exists, then we will simply type here if is item exists, then we have to update the value, else we have to add the new values. All right, so let's type here let new cart items. All right, so if that exists, then we will simply set here new cart items is going to be cart items cart items dot map. Then for each item, I will type here item dot product is equal to is item exist dot product. Then we will simply add the item, otherwise we will move on and use the item. Okay, so what does this mean is that if that item exists, then we will map through on each cart items, and if the item dot product is equal to this is exist item dot product, this means that this is the same product that we want to update, then we will give the new item, otherwise we will give the old item that we have in the loop. Okay, so it will update that array, otherwise we simply have to add that in the array. That is going to be new cart items. Okay, that is going to be, we will spread here the cart items, so cart dot cart items, we will spread that. Okay, or otherwise it is going to be an empty array. Okay, at start we may not have any values, so in that case it is going to be an empty array. Okay, so we will spread that, and we have to add the item also, so I will add here item. Okay, so all the items in the array. Okay, then we add here our new item. Okay, so that is going to be right here. Okay, so now we have our new cart items. We simply have to save that in the local storage, and I will simply type here local storage dot set item, and we have to set in here the cart, that is going to be JSON dot stringify, because we have to save a string in the local storage. And now here you can save the cart items as it is, like I am doing, or you can encrypt the cart items if you want to protect those. You can use JWT package or any other encrypting package to encrypt your cart items. Okay, I will go as it is. Okay, so now in the stringify I will pass here the cart items. Okay, that is going to be new cart items. All right, so now we will set in the cart items. Remember that we have here cart dot cart items, so we will set here cart items is going to be new cart items. Now we have set that in the local storage. Now we also have to add these new items in the local in the basically state. Okay, so for that I create a new function here on the top. I call it const set cart to state, so it will set all the cart to the state. Okay, so in that I will simply set cart. Okay, in that I will pass in here local storage. I will check that if local storage dot get item, if the cart exists, then we will simply have to add that in the cart. So that is going to be JSON dot parse. Remember that we have saved in the string, so we will parse that and pass in here the local storage.get items. So if that exists, then we will simply add that in the state, otherwise we will add an empty array like this. Okay, and that we have to remove this from here. So now it will set the card to the state. Now I will you have to call this function first of all on the use effect as well. So on reload we simply set all the items to the state, so we can access that anywhere. Okay, so now it will set all the items to the state on the reload, and also we have to now set the card to the state after adding a new item. So I will call that here as well. Simply save this one, and now I will add this to here. Simply save it. Okay, so now we have to, if I go back, if I go to this product, I have to, when I click on this add to cart, I have to add this product in the cart. Okay, so I will go back in the components, I go in the products, in the product details, I have to add that here. Okay, so for that I create a handler. So const add to cart handler. Okay, now in that I have to call that function. That is going to be add item to cart. Okay, in that I have to pass in here the product ID, that is going to be product dot underscore ID. Okay, underscore ID. In the same way I have other fields, so I will add that as well. That is going to be a name of the product, so product dot name. Okay, then I have here the price, then I have here the image. Okay, so name price. For the image I will use here product dot images. I will get the first image dot URL, pass that, and then I have here the stock of the product, so stock, and then I have here the seller. Okay, so now I have to call this add to cart handler. So here I have my button that is here add to cart. So here I will simply add here on click, I will simply call here add to cart handler. Okay, so now it will handle that. Okay, and we also have to import this add item to the cart. For that I will simply import here use context. Okay, I will import the use context hook, and then after that I will get from use context. In the use context I have to pass here my context. So my context is going to be cart context, so cart context. So I will import my cart context from here. So cart context, I will import that from context slash cart context. I will pass that in here. Now I can import here the add item to the cart, so I will add that here like this. Now if I simply save it from here, and now if I go back, okay, so undefined reading context. Okay, so you have to actually go back in the cart context. I also have to export default here the cart context as well, so that I can use that in the product details right here. Okay, if I go back now, if I reload this page, now everything is fine. Now if I click on add to cart, okay, so I have clicked on that button. If I go to the inspect, let's go to application. Here you can see that in the cart we have our cart item. Okay, so we have here, if I move to the top, we have here stock, seller, quantity, product, price, name, and the image. So we have successfully added this cart item. Let's add one more. If I go to this page and I open this one, let's add the product with the image. Let's add this one. So add to cart. Okay, if I, you can see that now we have two products here. So now we also have this Amazon basics. So this minute our product is successfully adding to the cart. And also if I go to the application, the components, sorry, and then here let me check in the state. So in the cart, you can see that here in the value we have this cart. So in the cart we have two cart items that contain both of the cart items. Now we just have to display that on the cart page. So now I go to my buy it now Git repo, and on the first branch I have my components. So I go to the source. In the components in the cart I have cart.js, cart.jsx. So I copy that from here. Okay, go back, and I go in the components, get a new folder that is cart. Okay, in the cart I get a new file that is cart.jsx. Simply save it here, and now we have this cart page here. Now let's get the cart items and display that here. Okay, so for that I will simply use this exact same code to get from the state. Remember that we have all cart items in our state, so we'll get that from here. So I will import my cart context. Okay, I have to get here add item to the cart, and also I will get here the cart. We have cart.cart items. Okay, so now let's display that. First of all, the length, I will type here cart dot cart items dot length, otherwise it is going to be 0. If I save it and go back to the Chrome, and if I have here the link to the slash cart, if I click on that, we also have to actually create a page. So in the app I create a new folder with the name cart. Okay, in the cart I have this page.jsx. Alright, so now I will add here this code and remove this part from here. Okay, and that is just going to be cart. I will remove this from here. That is going to be cart page. I will remove this async from here. Simply save it, and also I have to actually reload this page. So cannot found resolve react.dom. Okay, so that is going to be link. We have here link where it is, this one. So I will import the link from next/link, and that is href. Simply save it, and now if I go back, we have to import the use context. So that is going to be I will go back and I copy this from here. You also have to make it client component because you have to use here hooks. So I will add that and move this user F from here. Save it, and now if I go back, reload this page, React is defined multiple times. I will remove this part, save it, and now you can see that this is our cart. So we have 2 items in the cart. Now let's display those here. So I go back and I scroll down. Before this section I will simply type cart dot cart items, dot cart items. I will map through each cart item. Okay, and I will make sure that if the cart dot cart items dot length is greater than 0, then we have to display that. Okay, so if it is greater than 0, then we have to display this part. Okay, so I will add the end of this section this bracket like this. Simply save it, and now if I reload this page, you can see that we have cart items in the cart, so that's why we will get here. Now we have to loop through that. So I will type here after this article, before this div, I will add my loop. So that is going to be cart dot cart items. Okay, dot map, and for each cart item, I have to display the item. All right, so I will move this entire div inside the loop like this. Oops. From here I have to select this part, so I will move that inside the loop. Okay, so now if I go back, you can see that we have here 2 items. So first of all, I have to display here the name. So that is going to be cart item dot name. Okay, and the same way we have here the seller. Okay, that is going to be cart item dot seller, and I also have to display here the image. So for the source, I will use here cart item dot image. Okay, I will remove this bracket from here, and for the title I will use here the name. Alright, save it. If I go back, now we have here the image, title, the seller name. We also have to display here the quantity and then the price. So for the quantity, we have here this value, so that is going to be cart item dot quantity. Okay, and then if I scroll down, we also have here the price, so I will add here cart item, this here cart item dot price. Remember that here we have to display the price per item, and here we have to display the total, um, you can say that total amount. So we will multiply this with the quantity, and then we get the total amount for this product only. Okay, so we will display here the price for per item, and then here I have to display here price multiply by cart item dot quantity. Okay, if I simply save it and paste that here, go back, and now you can see that here we get here 34912.99. Okay, and now also I will use here actually dot to fixed. Okay, I will fix it to only 2 decimal characters, otherwise it will be 349.5 to 6 numbers after that. So I will restrict that to 2, so it will be 2 numbers after decimal. All right, and then now we have to first of all handle this plus and minus button if user want to increase the quantity. Okay, so let's handle that first of all. If I simply save it, let's create 2 functions here. First of all, increase quantities, so increase quantity, in that I will pass here the card item for which I want to update the quantity. Okay, I will check that const new quantity is going to be card items. So the card item dot quantity, I will add here +1. So this is going to have a new quantity. We will add plus in the current quantity. Okay, and then we have to prepare here our item that we want to save in the uh, local storage and state. So that is going to be dot 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 whatever in the cart item, we will spread that, and then we have to update the quantity value. So the quantity value is going to be new quantity, this one. Okay, so now we have our item here. Now we simply have to save that in the local storage. So I will add here add to cart, pass in here the item, so now it will update the value. Now also I have to make sure that the stock, for example, if we have 5 items in stock, we cannot allow user to have more than 5 in the cart. So for that I add if check here, that if the new quantity is greater than the cart item dot stock, then we simply have to return here. Okay, because if that is greater than the stock, then it will be a issue. So we'll check that if the new quantity is greater than the stock, then we will simply return from here, and we will not add the item to the cart. And in the same way we have decreased quantity, so I copy that. That is going to be decreased quantity, so we will minus that, and then if the new quantity is less than equal to 0, then we will simply return from here. So this is our decreased quantity. So now we have to call that. So I scroll down, this is our minus and this is our plus. So this is our button, so on click I simply have to call that. So that is going to be decrease. So decrease quantity, I will pass in here the cart item. Okay, in the same way I have the increase quantity for the plus, so I copy that from here, and this is our plus button, so I will add that here. That is going to be increase quantity. Save it. Now let's test it out. If I go back below this page, if I click here plus, you can see that the quantity is increased to 2 and the price is also increased here. I can increase those like this. Now you can see that I have only 5 items in stock, so I cannot select more than 5 here. And also if I decrease, I cannot have value less than 1. Okay, the same way I can increase the values. Okay, so now we are successfully handling our minus and plus button. Now let's handle this remove button. If you want to remove some item from the cart, you simply have to remove that from the local storage and also from the state. So I simply go back in the cart context, create a new function. I will call it const delete item from cart. Okay, that I have to pass in here the ID, okay, of that product. So const new items or new cart items is going to be cart dot cart items. I will filter that and remove that product from the cart. So cart dot cart items, we will filter that, and then for each item I will check that for each item I will check that if that item dot product is not equal to the ID that we will pass in the delete handler. Okay, so if we will get our new cart items without that product, then we simply have to save that. So I will use this code again here. It will save that in the local storage and also update that in the state. Save it. I will call this from here and I pass that here. Save it. Now we can access that right here. And now if I scroll down, I have here my remove button, which is this one. So I will add here on click. So on click, I will call here my remove item from the cart. So remove that is actually delete item from cart, sorry. So I will use that here, delete item from the cart. Then I will pass in here the ID, that is going to be cart item dot product. Remember that product is the ID of that product. So I will pass that in here, save it. Now if I go back, reload this page, if I click here delete, you can see that the item is gone. If I delete this, you can see that now we have 0 items in the cart and the entire cart is gone from the bottom. Okay, so I will go here. Also let's activate this button. I also want to add items to the cart and I user click on this button. Okay, so I go back, go to the car product item. Okay, then I simply go here and I copy this from here, because you have to also add that from the home page. You can remove that if you want, but I will add that here. Okay, then I will use this cart context here and I put that here. So I will import the cart context. Okay, and I have to call this cart handler. So I go here and then I copy this. On click, I have to code the add to cart handler, go back, and then here we have our this part. So on click I will add that, save it. And now if I go back, so use context is not defined, so I will import the use context, save it. And now if I go back and click here add to cart and go in the cart, you can see that we have 1 items in the cart, and we also have to update the number of cart items in the header right here. So for that I go back to the layouts. In the header I have to simply import that cart items here. Okay, so I will copy this from here. Also I will copy this cart context here. Okay, I have to also import the cart context, so I copy that as well. I need here cart. Okay, so that is going to be const cart items is going to be cart dot cart items. Okay, and then I scroll down here, I will add cart items dot length. Okay, otherwise it is going to be 0. Simply save it. Now if I go back, cannot destructure property cart, so we also have to actually make it client side component. Okay, so use client, simply save it. Now if I go back, now you can see that here we also have one in here. Okay, if I go back, click on 2, add this item, so it is updated. Now we have 2 items in the cart. Okay, so now we have handled this entire part. We are successfully handling this entire thing, also the remove button. Now we have to calculate the total price, total unit, tax, and total price here. Okay, so let's go back. And also one thing, if I go here, and if for example this product is out of stock, then we have to disable this add to cart button. Okay, for that I simply go back in the product details. Okay, remember that here we have our in stock variable that will be true or false. So if that is false, then we have to disable this button. So I simply type here that disabled, and it will be disabled if we have not in stock. So I will add here not. Okay, so now the button will be disabled if the item is out of stock. Okay, so I close this from here. Also remove this, close this header page and the product item. So now let's calculate here the prices. So I go back. So first of all I have to calculate the amount without tax, then the tax, and then the total amount. Okay, so I'll type here const amount without tax, Now you can also create a separate function for this, but I will keep it simple. So I don't know how we can collect the tax, but I will collect 15% of the total amount. Okay, so I will type here a cart dot cart items dot reduce. I will use here reduce function to get my total amount. So in the reduce, I will pass in here my accumulator and then the item. Okay, now we simply have to multiply the quantity with the price, and then at the end we will get a value with the total amount. Okay, so I will simply type here accumulator, then add in here item dot quantity, and I have to multiply that with the item dot price, and then we will pass in here 0. Okay, so reduce function help us to reduce the values to 1. Like in this case we want to get a total amount, so we will multiply the quantity with the price and add in the previous value, and then we will get here our amount without tax. Okay, now we have to calculate the tax. So const tax amount, okay, that is going to be amount without tax multiplied by 0.15, so we will get 15%. And I use here dot to fixed to 2 so that I can get only 2 values after decimal, and this is the tax amount. Now we have to calculate the total amounts. So const total amount is going to be a number. We will add in here amount without tax, then plus in here number, and pass in here tax amount. Okay, then 2 fixed. Okay, if I simply save it, now let's display that on the UI. So if I scroll down, for the total price I will add here I will call it price or amount without tax, amount before tax, and that is going to be amount without tax, and then we have to display here the tax, so that is going to be tax amount, and then the total amount, that is going to be total amount. If I simply save it and go back, so and if I reload this page, now you can see that here we have 361, so 349 plus, if I just show you here, plus 12.99, we have here 361.99 here, then the tax is $54, and we have total $416.29. Okay, so our price is correct. Now we also have to handle this units, how many units user is purchasing. In this case we have one this and one this, which is 2. If I increase it, we have to change it to 3. Now we have one this unit and 2 this units, so user is purchasing 2 units and 2 products basically. Okay, so you can see that the price is changing. Now you can see that I haven't used here to fixed, so I get here this unlimited digits after dot. Okay, to handle that I simply use here dot to fixed also. So I copy that and add that here, save it, and now I have here, if I reload it, I will actually type here the bracket, save it. Now if I go back, now we have here correct amount. Now let's handle this unit, and for the unit I will simply use this reduce function again. So I copy that from here, go to the top bottom, and I type here this. Okay, and we have to wrap that inside the brackets. For each item we simply have to get the quantity, so that is going to be item dot quantity. I remove this price from here. Okay, if I save it, go back, and you can see that I have here 6 units. If I decrease it, you can see that the unit is also decreasing here. Okay, so this means our values are dynamic here. Okay, save it, or I can add here a space like this. Okay, so now we're successfully displaying the amount before tax, total units, tax, and added total price. Okay, we are also handling our cart. We are displaying the cart items in the cart and also in the header. So that's the end of this video. If you have any confusion, you can definitely ask me a question. I'm always here to help you. So that's it for this video. You can also get the source code of this video in the description of this video. In my next video, I will start working on my authentication. Okay, so I will see you in the next lecture.